Another strong year for Alabama. They had won 14 games already, 10 of them at home, a 10-3 mark at home where they packed the house every night, averaging close to 3,500 fans at home again this year at Rhodes Stadium. What an atmosphere it is. Pat Murphy is their head coach. Nearly 1,200 wins in his career, and nearly 1,100 of them at the University of Alabama. Pat, thanks for spending time. Amanda and Darren with you. Just want to start with, the kind of the general mood and spirit of your players. I know it's challenging for those of us that are older, those that are younger, like your athletes. How often have you been able to communicate with them? And if you were to speak from them as a whole, how are the spirits, the mood as they try and stay fresh and stay athletic and be active?
Well, thank you to both of you for having me on. I appreciate it. It's good to talk to you again. We've been trying to text, call, and even snail mail. I've been writing like 5 cards a day.
Oh, wow.
I go through the roster, and I try to hit 5, and I write one to my mom, so that's 6, I guess. But a lot of them, they're not used to getting something in the mailbox, so it's kind of cool because the reactions have been really funny because they'll text me and say, "Thank you so much for that card," and it's like the first time they've ever gotten something in the mail. So, but I think, you know what, anytime something happens and adversity or whatever, the kids seem to bounce back quicker than the coaches, to tell you the truth. And they're really, really good role models. And I think we've tried to teach them that this is way bigger right now than sports. And, one of the first things I say at every single team meeting in my 22 years at Alabama, when everybody comes back in August, the sooner you realize that life is not all about you, the better off you're going to be. And I think they all took that to heart, and this is what a great time and an opportunity for everybody to actually live that and just be kinder to the person next to you and not constantly look at why did this happen to me, or look what's going around in the world, and be very grateful for what we have. And at first we thought we might get to play again, and then obviously everything's canceled. But I think everybody's just looking forward to that next time we get to take the field. And like you said in the intro, we sold over 3,000 season tickets this year. And it was the most we'd ever sold. And there was a buzz about softball around Tuscaloosa and West Alabama. And I just think it's going to be bigger next year. And then especially when you throw on top of that, the Olympics gets postponed. So 21 could be the biggest year yet for the sport of softball.
Well, I love your perspective on it. And when you talk, you just visualize these athletes who have played this game their entire lives, and they've never seen this sport where it hasn't been year round. So for most of them, this is probably the first spring that they've spent just quiet, not doing much, maybe in the backyard, bringing it back to the basics. And what a fun, like you said, it's kind of a fun opportunity to revisit that. Although, we would all rather see you guys out on the field competing. But do you have a sense, after writing to your athletes and communicating a little bit, and we're awaiting a pretty big decision, do you have a feeling, particularly amongst maybe your senior class, that there's a sense of peace about what this decision might bring and the decisions that they're going to have to make?
Yeah, and we have 7 seniors, which is we had 7 in 2005, so it's only the second time in our history that we've had that many seniors on the roster. And that was a really good team back then, made it to the World Series. And, we were kind of playing off that 2005 senior class too. But, at first it was just the suddenness of, everything just being done. And that was the biggest gut punch to everybody. We thought we were going to play. We thought we were going to play without any fans, and then all of a sudden, boom, it's done. And Amanda, this. A softball student athlete, it's one of the hardest things to do, because once you are done basically with college, you're done with the sport.
Yep.
Something you've done since you were 5 years old. And that last game, hopefully in Oklahoma City, that's it. And then it's like, oh my gosh, it hits these young ladies tremendously hard. And, we try to say it's not who you are, it's what you do. Okay. And this is only a 4-chapter segment of your life in hopefully an 80 chapter book, right? These 4 years in college. So the best is yet to come. We kind of preach that too over and over and over. And, it is going to be a big vote today, and it's supposed to be, I guess, this afternoon. And I feel for everybody on that committee because it is a big, big deal. I've kind of been in favor of relief for everybody. I know it's a monetary thing. I know it's a roster thing. I know it's a scholarship thing. But I think there's just ways to do it, where there's a will, there's a way, and we're going to get through it. And I'm hoping that they see it that way.
Yeah, there are so many layers to it. I mean, every day I wake up with a different thought on the difficulty of it, but the benefits of it. And I'm glad I'm not having to make any of those decisions. But
yeah, I've talked to so many baseball coaches too, because I got a lot of friends in college baseball, and their issues are so different than anybody else. And a couple of them had said, I wish they would have taken us out of the equation and decided on ours separate, because they have all these scholarship restrictions. They have the major league draft. They have kids that they've signed that probably will be drafted, and then that leaves a spot open on their roster. And there's so many things that they have to worry about that softball and track and tennis and golf don't have to. And when they lumped it all into one, it just makes it a lot harder for the baseball guys. And I feel bad for them too, because it's tough either way, with or without the coronavirus, trying to judge your roster based on who gets drafted. Yep. I mean, like when you played, you were going to have a great year every year. Well, sometimes that junior doesn't have a very good year. Yep. And then he doesn't get drafted. And then you've already recruited his spot, but he doesn't do well. So then he has to find a way back. So there's so many things about it. Like you said, I'm glad that we're not on that committee.
And as this show airs multiple times throughout the week, of course, that decision will be made. It's going to be interesting to see how your athletes respond to that decision. And certainly we're all keeping an eye on this. This is head coach Pat Murphy, the head coach of Alabama, the team that won it all in 2012. I've got to stop with one of your seniors and have a conversation just about the hitter and the athlete and the human. Bailey stopped 10 short of Kretsch with regard to that home run mark. She had 50 in her career. Bailey Hemphill, for those of you that don't know. She had been pitched around a ton, 24 walks. As a matter of fact, I've never or rarely seen a dangerous hitter with more career walks than hits, but she managed to do that with her 50 career homers. Just describe, what she accomplished as a hitter, who she is as a teammate, as an athlete, for those that maybe haven't seen her a lot.
Well, first of all, she's just a great young lady. She's going to graduate in May, 4 years, 4.0. She was the academic All-American of the Year for the sport of softball last year. She's probably going to be a 3-time All-American. She was the Alabama nominee for an award called the Boyd McWhorter Student Athlete Award, and it's the highest honor you can get in the SEC. Each school nominates a female and a male athlete, and then they go together, and then now you have to beat 13 other young ladies from all the other schools in the SEC. But just to get nominated is a $10,000 post-grad scholarship, and then if she wins it again, she gets another $10,000. So, and then I'm writing her nomination for Academic All-American today. So off the field, she's just been unbelievable. And, one of the things I don't think a lot of people get to hear stories kind of behind the scenes or academically what they do off the field. And one of the things that Bailey had to do this fall was she was in human development, and she actually had to go to this school. It's on campus, and it's a lot of professors' kids and faculty, staff kids. And she was the teacher, and it was a horrible schedule in terms of softball. She was there from 7:30 to 5, and she ran the classroom probably for like 3 weeks. And one of the coolest things I've ever seen in my career here is, we have individual senior days for our seniors, because one year, and actually it was the year we had 7, we had a senior day at the end of the year, and we played a big time rival in our league. And I got a big heart, so I played every senior got to play or start. And one of them struck out 3 times with the bases loaded, and no lie, she was up 3 times, all 3 times with the bases loaded, and every time she'd come into the dugout bathroom and throw up and cry. And after that year, I said, nope, no more last game, senior day. We're going to spread them out throughout the season, and everybody's going to get their own individual game, and it'll be random where they're at. So Bailey's was earlier this year. And one of the coolest things is, her family comes out on the field. We introduce her. We have a video. But right before all the video stuff happened, you see one of the ushers come down our sidewalk next to our dugout. And behind him are 15 little kids that have T-shirts that say, "We love Bailey." And it was all her kids from her classroom. And the first couple down there were 2 little boys that sprinted down the staircase and literally jumped into Bailey's arms on the field. Half of us were crying, half of us were laughing because it was such a cool moment. But all these kids missed her like something else. And, I just stood there from afar thinking, look at the impact she had on these kids, It was unbelievable. So that's the type of kid she is. She brings everybody together. She's kind of like the class clown in a way, in a good way. Keeps everything light. She's very, very competitive, but you wouldn't see it looking at her. She doesn't have an outward competitive look to her, but inside the motor is churning like crazy. Kind of like a Kelly Crutchman used to be.
Yeah.
I always thought she was lazier than hell, but that was just kind of like her demeanor. Yeah. And, when she got on the field, it was like, holy buckets, look at this kid. But, it wasn't a, 7 days a week sort of thing. And I think that's why Bailey's going to be successful in life is, softball is what she does. It's not who she is.
I think you just do such a good job of putting perspective in your athletes, and everything you talk about is just building the relationships. And that's why your program's so successful. I love it. And I want you to talk similarly about a couple of your freshmen or your senior pitchers, I should say, Sarah Cornell and Crystal Goodman. I just remember, talking about them, hearing about them for their 4 years. And I guess a 2-part question as you kind of explore with these seniors, you know them so well, but you've probably had some pretty fun, interesting, hard conversations with them about what the next couple of months could look like. Talk a little bit about Cornell and Goodman and maybe some of the conversations that, not specifically with them, but just with some of your senior athletes that you've had as they're kind of going through this process.
Well, it was about a week after we figured out that we weren't going to play. There was still this little tiny chance that the SEC, the SEC hadn't canceled everything because they kind of waited a little bit. And we hosted the SEC tournament this year. So we were really kind of holding out for a little bit of hope. And then finally they had canceled everything too. So I sent out an email and I said, hey, I don't really need to know right now. Don't make an emotional decision on this. But, in a couple of days, and this was spring break too for us. So it kind of happened at the right time almost. His kids could go home and they weren't missing any school and stuff like that. So I said, just give me a yes or no. And then if you have any concerns or questions, include that. So, within 5 minutes, Alexis Mack, who had transferred as our first graduate transfer, emailed me and said, I'm in 100%. I'm ready for Team 25. And then as the couple days, we were all 7 had said, yes, we want to play. And Sarah and Crystal, obviously 2 pitchers that meant a lot to us. And both are going to graduate in 4 years. Sarah has a art degree and Crystal is journalism. And Crystal has a internship all set up. She's going to go to grad school at Illinois State. Her brother is a professor in the business school. She's going to live with her aunt or her brother and her sister-in-law. She had this whole thing planned and then all of a sudden, boom. And now she's like, I really want to play again. And I hate that I have to make a decision between my future and my happiness. Mm. And that was tough. That was just a dagger to the heart, Yep. But that's what they're going through. That's what these kids are going through. And, Sarah, She wants to come back. She said she could start a graduate degree. And, that's one of the cool things about that possibility. If they do get to come back, a lot of them are going to get their master's degree. I think that's a huge positive for a student athlete. So just that undecisiveness and what am I going to do? Am I going to get to play again, or am I done? And then what was my last game like? And Sarah's senior day was the Saturday of the tournament where we got canceled. Mm-hmm. And one uncle had already flown in from New York. 14 to 15 more people were coming the next day. It was a great tournament. It was Texas, BYU, and Bryant. And Sarah's senior day was that Saturday afternoon. So I know that weighed heavily on her as well. So it's just so many emotions going through these kids' heads and the coaches' heads too.
Hey, Pat, thanks for opening up, sharing a little bit about what you have gone through as a coach and obviously with your athletes. Some great stories, too. It's going to be a better day when you're out on the field and your athletes are playing as well. So we look forward to that day. Until then, be safe, be healthy. God bless you and your family.
Thanks a lot. Hey, and you guys are always welcome at the Rhodes House. I'd love to have both of you in town for a VIP tour or whatever you want, okay?
We're in. Let's get through this thing, and we're in.
Yes, sir. Okay. Thank you very much.
Alabama head coach Pat Murphy will continue.